Hello everyone, the beta for patch Luna 4 has begun, and aside from the 3 new characters released, Columbina, Zibai, and Yuga, this patch is also introducing 2 new artifact sets. So how strong are the new sets looking, and should you be prepared to farm them? To answer these questions, let's go over the new artifacts and who can use them the best. Of course, remember that this is very early information from beta, so very subject to changes and balancing. First, we have Wherever a Breeze Blows. The official English name is probably subject to change. 2-piece gives 18% attack, and then for the 4-piece, when the holder's normal attack, charged attack, elemental skill, or elemental burst hits an opponent, so pretty much any attack other than plunging attacks, they will gain an effect for 6 seconds. This effect gives them 25% attack. But if the holder has completed their witch's homework, the effect will be enhanced, not only giving them the attack buff, but also 20% crit rate. And this set can be triggered from off-field. Witch's homework is the quest that you complete for a character to become a Hexerei character. So this is the new on-field and off-field DPS artifact set for Hexerei characters, giving them a total of 43% attack and 20% crit rate to them. Now based on the wording of the text, you just need to complete the character's quest, meaning you don't need to have 2 Hexerei characters on the team for this set to be fully active. So for example, if Durin is supporting Kanich with Emily and Ian-san, he is the only Hexerei character, so he doesn't get the extra Hexerei buffs that increases his red shred from his light form, but as long as you've completed the quest that makes Durin become a Hexerei character, he will get the full benefits of the new 4-piece artifact set. As of Luna 4, there are 8 total Hexerei characters, so let's go over all of them and see how good the new set currently looks on them, based on very early calcs I've seen from different theory crafters from J-Stern mains. Again, this is very early calcs, so very subject to change. First, as I mentioned already in my example, we have Durin. With his release, he didn't really have a specific artifact set. You either use 4-piece emblem on him if you needed the ER, 4-piece noblesse for the team buffing with the extra attack buff, or 2-piece for damage. So the new Hexerei set is much appreciated for Durin, but the gain he gets from it currently depends on the team. In an overload team where he's the off-field support, the set is about a 3k DPS gain over 2-piece. If Durin is the on-field main DPS in an overload team, he gets around a plus 9k DPS increase over 2-piece. But if he's in a Kanich team as a support, Noblesse is still looking to be a better choice. So it really depends. In many teams, the new set will be an upgrade, but if Durin is a good holder of the Noblesse set, it may be better to keep it on it to give the team attack buff to buff the main DPS. Second, we have main DPS Hexerei buffed Venti. DPS Venti's 2 main sets that were looked at were 4-piece Echoes and 4-piece Desert Pavilion, which were both definitely okay sets but not very insane on him. The new Hexerei set is looking to be a slight upgrade over these sets. For instance, some calcs have the new set to be around 2 to 3k DPS over 4-piece Desert Pavilion, and if you're just sticking to a 2-piece build, the new Hexerei set will be about a 9k DPS increase. Third, we have main DPS Hexerei buffed Klee. Currently, she has a lot of artifact options, but is mainly using 4-piece Crimson Witch or 2-piece, and the new set is looking like a significant upgrade for increasing her DPS in a Chevreuse Overload team, getting around a 10k DPS upgrade when compared to a 2-piece set. Now if you have Klee C1, which gives Klee a lot of attack, this set isn't that big of an increase, just because all these attack buffs are starting to get diluted, but the new set is still looking like a 5k DPS upgrade in the same teams with Klee C1, so still best in slot. Fourth, we have main DPS Hexerei buffed C6 Razor. The initial calcs of his Chevreuse Overload teams had him mainly on 4-piece Echoes, and just like Klee, the new Hexerei set is a pretty big upgrade for him, increasing his Chevreuse Overload team DPS by around 10k DPS, just like C0 Klee. Fifth, we have Hexerei buffed Albedo. While Albedo does technically have attack scaling and can make use of the 20% crit rate, building defense on him is much better for his damage, and since if you activate his Hexerei buff, he gives a team buff that scales off his defense, so the attack that this new set gives isn't that amazing for him. As a result, his existing sets like 4-piece Golden Troop and 4-piece Husk are still better than the new Hexerei set on him. Sixth, we have Fischl. At first glance, Fischl seems to be an amazing user of the new Hexerei set since she takes advantage of both the crit rate and the attack percent. However, in many of her best teams like Chevreuse Overload with the Hexerei buffs, those teams have many attack buffs and not that many damage percent buffs. For instance, if you use Bennett, he gives an attack buff, Chevreuse has an attack percent buff, but there isn't really a support in these teams that gives damage percent. Because of this, the new Hexerei set isn't that much of an upgrade, if at all, over Golden Troop on Fischl. I can see this set being better in some teams that are considered less meta like Aggravate, where there are damage percent buffs from someone like Kazuha and not that many attack buffs, but considering overload teams are more meta for Fischl, at least with the current iteration of the set, I personally still see Fischl generally sticking with Golden Troop. 7th, we have Hexerei buffed Mona. In teams where she's a support, she is obviously not using the new Hexerei DPS set. She's not doing damage, she's supposed to be supporting the team. However, in teams where she's a driver or main DPS with like C6 and is built for damage, she can definitely use this new set. Now, to be perfectly transparent, I haven't seen any calcs with DPS Mona on this new set, but considering her previous options were 4-piece Heart of Death, 4-piece Wanderers, or 2-piece 2-piece, the new set should be an upgrade for DPS Mona, especially considering her C6 gives a lot of damage percent, so the new set giving attack percent is much appreciated. And then the 8th character is Sucrose. I don't think I have to say much here, she's definitely not using the set. Theorycrafter Meowtoo's posted a very quick summary on the new sets with the current Hexerei characters, and I think it's a fairly good summary on everything I covered. And then here's a tier list summarizing who I think benefits the most out of the new Hexerei sets based on the early calcs I've seen. Lastly, with Varka being rumored to be released in patch Luna 5, he may be considered a Hexerei character, so this new set may be his best in slot artifact set. With the Hexerei artifact set covered, let's move on to the second new set, Albeit of Morning Star and Moon. At least that's the current English translation of the name, subject to change. The 2-piece gives 80 EM, and the 4-piece gives 20% lunar reaction damage bonus when the equipping character is off-field. If you have Ascended Gleam active, you get another 40% lunar reaction damage bonus. So this set is pretty much the golden troop for moon sign or lunar off-fielders, giving 80 EM and 60% lunar reaction damage bonus. Currently, there are only 2 characters that deal lunar reaction damage from off-field, Inefa and Columbina, but looking at early calcs, this set doesn't actually seem that amazing. For Inefa, the new set is slightly better than Tenacity of the Millilith and Gilded in a Flint's team, so it's currently looking like her new best set. Though outside of Flint's teams, the set performs more similar to 4-piece Gilded, and if you really have high Flynn's investment, then I can definitely still see Tenacity of the Millilith's attack buff being somewhat better. But for Columbina, even though it is clear that the new set is designed for her release, while it's definitely fine to use on her, current calcs and her best teams actually have it as not the best option. For example, in a Flynn's team, it is better to have Inefa on the new set because she does more off-field lunar damage in that team, which means that Columbina should be the holder of 4-piece Silken Moon Serenade for the extra team EM and lunar damage buff. In a Nefer team, most of Columbina's off-field damage is through utilizing Llama's quill buffs, which don't get affected by lunar damage percent, which the new set gives. So it currently looks slightly better to have her on 4-piece Silken Moon Serenade, allowing you to use 2-piece EM on Llama to increase her buffs. And for Zibai, with Iyuga's kit being very similar to Llama's, it may just be best to use 2-piece Elemental Mastery on him as well and Columbina on 4-piece Silken Moon Serenade again. And if you don't have Iyuga C2, he can't maintain 4-piece Silken Moon Serenade, so Columbina pretty much has to use it. So ultimately, while the new set is definitely usable on Columbina, at least with Columbina's current numbers and our understanding of her, she just seems to be a better user of 4-piece Silken Moon Serenade, especially since the 2-piece gives energy recharge, a stat that she really wants so that she can use her burst. This scenario is very similar to how 4-piece Golden Troop is supposed to be the best for Farina, but in teams like Skirk teams, it's just better to buff Skirk more with a set like 4-piece Tenacity of the Millilith on Farina. Thus, I wouldn't mind seeing this set getting a slight buff in the beta. And that's everything about the new artifact sets coming to patch Luna 4. Again, remember that these sets could easily get better or worse throughout the course of the beta, and kit changes on Columbina can definitely affect how good she uses her new set. I will be continuing to cover all the new updates and changes of the Columbina patch, so you should definitely subscribe to the channel to keep track of these updates and my analysis of them. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.